His daughters was terrified of everyone after the accident, until a black woman held her hand in the rain. The night Nathaniel Wren's 6-year-old daughter went missing, he was standing in front of 40 board members, explaining why his company had lost $200 million in a single quarter. He would have traded every cent of his fortune, every hotel tower with his name in gold letters on the marble, just to know she was safe. When his phone rang and the head of his household staff said the words, "Lily is gone, sir," she climbed the fence. Nathaniel Wren, the man Forbes called the coldest closer in American real estate, ran out of that boardroom without his jacket, without his car, without a single thought except one. His daughter had not spoken a word in 6 months, and if something happened to her tonight, the last sound he ever heard her make would still be a scream. That scream had happened on a rain-slicked highway the night her mother died. Lily had been in the back seat. She had seen everything. Since that night, she had not let another human being touch her. Not her father, not her grandmother, not the string of nurses and therapists paraded through the Wren mansion at outrageous hourly rates. She flinched from hands. She flinched from voices raised even slightly. She had built a silence around herself so complete that doctors were starting to use words like selective mutism and trauma-locked, and quietly, behind closed doors, words like institutional care. So, when Nathaniel burst out of his own front gates into a downpour and saw his daughter standing barefoot in the middle of the street, frozen, shaking, surrounded by 3 well-meaning security guards who did not dare get closer, because the last time someone grabbed her arm she had bitten clean through skin. What he saw next stopped his heart more completely than the accident report ever had. A stranger, a black woman he had never seen in his life, soaked to the bone, was kneeling in the street in front of his daughter, with her palm turned up and open, saying nothing at all, and Lily, his silent, untouchable, terrified little girl, reached out and placed her small hand into the stranger's. Nathaniel didn't move. He stood there in the rain, 40 feet away, watching a woman he had never met do in 10 seconds what an army of specialists couldn't do in 6 months. Lily wasn't screaming. She wasn't pulling away. She was looking up into this stranger's face like she'd found something she'd been searching for in the dark. "Sir?" One of the guards touched his shoulder. "We tried to call you 3 times. Nathaniel didn't answer. He was already walking toward them, slow, careful, the way you'd approach something you were terrified of scaring off. The woman looked up first. Rain ran down a face that was calm in a way that felt earned rather than natural. The calm of someone who had learned, the hard way, exactly how to sit still inside chaos. "She's okay," the woman said quietly, before he could ask, before he could demand answers, before the businessman in him could take over and start assigning blame. She just needed somebody who wasn't scared of her fear. "Who are you?" His voice cracked on the second word, and he hated that it did, hated that this stranger heard the billionaire's voice break in the rain. "Amara Bennett." She didn't stand yet. She stayed low, at Lily's height, and Lily's small fingers tightened around hers like she understood, on some animal level, that if this woman stood up and became a tall stranger the spell might break. "I was walking home from my shift. I saw her climb over that fence, and I saw your men circling her like she was a bomb about to go off. She's not a bomb, Mr. Wren. She's a little girl who's still in that car in her head." Nathaniel Wren, who had negotiated hostile takeovers without blinking, who had once made a Saudi prince wait 11 minutes in his own lobby out of pure power theater, found he had absolutely nothing to say to this soaking wet stranger who had just read his daughter's condition more accurately than the $400 an hour psychiatrist he'd flown in from Boston. "Please," he said instead. "Come inside, both of you, please. Inside, under warm light, with towels and dry loads and a fire that Lily sat close to without letting go of Amara's hand for even a second." Nathaniel finally got the full picture, piece by piece. Amara Bennett was 29 years old. She worked nights as a pediatric trauma nurse at Cedar Grove Memorial, the same overworked, underpaid job she'd held for 6 years, the kind of job that ages a person in ways that don't show up until they're 40 and suddenly exhausted in their bones. She lived 2 miles from the Wren estate in an apartment that could fit inside Nathaniel's closet. And she had a secret she did not share that first night, one that lived behind her eyes every time she looked at Lily too long. A secret about her own little sister, about her own rain-soaked night, about a grief so specific it had taught her, against every wish she'd ever had, exactly what a terrified child's silence sounds like from the inside. "I can't ask you to do this," Nathaniel said, after Lily had finally fallen asleep on the couch with her head in Amara's lap, something she had not done for another human being since the funeral. "But I'm asking, please. Whatever your rate is at that hospital, I will triple it. She needs someone who isn't afraid of her." Amara looked down at the sleeping child in her lap, at the small hand still loosely curled around two of her fingers even in sleep, and something in her chest that had been sealed shut for 3 years cracked open half an inch. "I'm not a nanny, Mr. Wren. I'm not asking for a nanny. I'm asking for whatever just happened in that street to keep happening." She was quiet a long moment. Rain still tapped the windows. "Give me 2 weeks," she finally said. "Unpaid leave from the hospital. If it's not working, if I'm not actually helping her, you let me walk away. No hard feelings, no strings." "Deal?" He put his hand out to shake on it. Old habit, and then remembered too late where he was, who he was talking to, what her body might do to an unexpected hand. But Amara just laughed, soft and surprised, and shook it anyway. "I don't flinch from hands, Mr. Wren. Just so we're clear, only she does." It was the first time in 6 months anyone in that house had made a joke that landed. 2 weeks became a month. A month became something neither of them named out loud, because naming it felt like it might scare it away, the same way Lily's silence had taught them both to move slow, speak soft, never grab for the thing they wanted too fast. Amara moved through the Wren mansion like she'd built it herself, sleeves rolled up, hair tied back, unimpressed by marble floors and original artwork, and a kitchen bigger than her entire childhood apartment. The staff adored her within a week. Lily, who still hadn't spoken a single word, had started drawing again. First just scribbles, then, 3 weeks in, a picture of 3 stick figures holding hands in the rain. She left it on Amara's pillow without a note. She didn't need one. Nathaniel found himself doing something he hadn't done since his wife died. Looking forward to dinner. "You know," Amara said one evening, catching him staring at her across the kitchen island while she made Lily's favorite grilled cheese, cut into triangles, crusts on, because Lily had strong opinions about crusts that she communicated entirely through facial expressions. For a man who apparently terrifies boardrooms for sport, you've got a real soft spot for watching people cook cheap sandwiches. "It's not the sandwich." "Oh, here we go." She flipped the pan without looking at him, infuriatingly casual. "The billionaire is going to tell me it's my technique." "It's not your technique either, Mr. Wren." She finally looked up, one eyebrow raised, absolutely unbothered by the fact that he owned the building she was standing in, 3 others like it, and roughly 40% more real estate than the average small country. "Are you flirting with me in my scrubs while I make your daughter a sandwich?" "I don't know," he said, and for the first time in 6 months, he actually smiled, really smiled, the kind that reached his eyes. "Is it working?" "Not even a little bit." She was smiling too, wide and unguarded, the kind of smile that made the kitchen feel 10 degrees warmer. "But keep trying. I do enjoy watching billionaires fail at things." It wasn't just banter though, and both of them knew it, even if neither said it out loud yet. Nathaniel started coming home earlier, not for board approval, not for optics, but because he genuinely wanted to be there when Amara read Lily her bedtime story, doing all the voices badly on purpose because it made Lily's mouth twitch almost into a smile. Amara let her guard down around him too, telling him small true things, that she'd wanted to be a doctor once, but the money hadn't been there, that she still called her mother every Sunday at exactly 6 o'clock, that she was terrified of thunderstorms for a reason she wasn't ready to explain. One night in the garden, with Lily finally asleep upstairs, and a warm wind moving through the hedges, Nathaniel reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind Amara's ear, and she didn't pull away, and neither of them moved for a long moment. This is a bad idea, Amara said quietly, not moving. Probably the worst idea I've had all year, Nathaniel agreed, also not moving. You're my employer. You're the only person who's ever made my daughter smile since her mother died. His voice was rough now, honest in a way boardrooms never got from him. I don't care what the org chart says, Amar. I care about you. She closed her eyes. When she opened them, there was something in them he hadn't seen before, not fear exactly, but its close cousin. You don't know what you're asking for, she said. You don't know what I'm carrying. Then tell me. She almost did. He watched her almost do it, watched the words gather right behind her teeth. Then, from the house, the porch light flicked on, and Nathaniel's mother-in-law stepped out onto the veranda with her arms crossed and an expression that had ended more than one business deal in its time. Nathaniel. Victoria Ashford's voice cut through the warm night like a blade through silk. A word. Now. Victoria Ashford had never liked Nathaniel. Not from the first day her daughter Caroline brought him home, not through the wedding, not through 6 years of marriage, and certainly not now, 6 months after burying her only child, watching her granddaughter be raised in a house run by hired help, while her son-in-law played house with the nurse. You are not thinking clearly, Victoria said, the moment they were alone in his study, her voice low and controlled, the voice of a woman who had spent 40 years in Manhattan legal circles learning exactly how to make quiet sound like a threat. That woman is an employee. Worse, she's a stranger you picked up off the street 6 weeks ago, and now my granddaughter refuses to speak to anyone but her. Do you understand how that looks? It looks like my daughter finally has someone who isn't afraid of her, Victoria. It looks like progress. It looks, Victoria said, her voice going cold and flat in a way that made the hair on the back of Nathaniel's neck rise, like grounds. I've already spoken to Whitfield and Cross. Caroline's will name me co-guardian in the event of your instability. A man falling for household staff 8 months after his wife's death, letting an unvetted stranger become his daughter's entire emotional world. That, Nathaniel, is exactly the kind of instability a family court judge takes very seriously. The room went silent except for the fire. You're threatening to take my daughter. I'm protecting my granddaughter, Victoria said. From a father who can't tell the difference between gratitude and love, and from a woman who, I did have someone look into this, don't look so shocked, has her own history with dead children that should concern you a great deal more than it apparently does. Nathaniel's blood went cold. What are you talking about? Victoria smiled, thin and satisfied, and set a folder on his desk. Ask her yourself, she said. See if she tells you the truth. Nathaniel didn't open the folder that night. He couldn't bring himself to do it, not because he didn't want the truth, but because some part of him, the part that had watched Amara Bennett kneel in the rain with her palm open for his terrified daughter, refused to learn the truth from a manila folder assembled by a private investigator his mother-in-law had hired without his knowledge. He found Amara in the kitchen the next morning and asked her directly. Victoria says you have a history with dead children, he said, quiet, watching her face carefully. She says it like a threat, and I want to hear it from you before I hear it from anyone else. Amara set down the mug she was holding very carefully, like it might shatter if she moved too fast. For a long moment she didn't speak at all, and in that silence Nathaniel understood, with a sick lurch in his stomach, that he had just done to her exactly what everyone had spent 6 months doing to his daughter, cornered her and waited for the flinch. My sister, Amara said, finally, her voice steady but her eyes wet. Danielle, she was 11. I was 19, home from nursing school for the summer, supposed to be watching her while our mother worked a double. We were walking home from the store in the rain and a car ran the light. She stopped, then started again. I held her hand the whole way to the hospital. I held it until they made me let go so they could work on her. She died 40 minutes later, and I have spent every day since thinking that if I'd just held on tighter, if I hadn't let them pull her away from me. Amara, that's why I knew what to do with Lily. Her voice cracked wide open now, no longer steady at all. I understood her silence the second I saw it. because I lived in that same silence for 2 years after Danielle died. I wasn't hired for this job, Nathaniel. I didn't apply for it. I just recognized a drowning child because I used to be one. The kitchen was silent except for the low hum of the refrigerator and the sound of both of them breathing hard. I should have told you, Amara said, wiping her face with the back of her hand, furious at herself for crying. Before it went this far, before I fell for you, Nathaniel finished quietly. Too late for that, weeks too late. She looked up at him, startled, raw, unguarded in a way she never let herself be. Your mother-in-law is going to use this against me, against us. A dead sisters, a family that couldn't afford the kind of therapy your daughter gets in an afternoon. A black nurse who fell for her rich white employer. Do you understand how that's going to sound in a courtroom? What people are going to say about us? I understand that my daughter spoke her first word in 6 months yesterday, Nathaniel said, and watched Amara's face crumple entirely. She said your name, Amara, in her sleep. I'm not letting Victoria or a courtroom or anyone else take that away from her or from you. I don't care what it costs me. The custody petition was filed 9 days later. Victoria moved fast and moved smart. She had the resources, the lawyers, and 6 years of quietly documented grievances against a son-in-law she'd never approved of. The petition painted a devastating picture. An emotionally erratic father, still visibly grieving his wife, who had installed an unvetted, financially motivated stranger into his household and allowed his traumatized 6-year-old daughter to become emotionally dependent on someone with, in the petition's careful legal language, a documented history of unresolved trauma and no professional credentials qualifying her for the therapeutic role she has assumed. It named Amara specifically. It included details about Danielle's death that Amara had never told anyone outside that kitchen. It suggested, without quite saying it outright, that a poor black nurse falling into a rich white widower's household was, at best, deeply inappropriate and at worst calculated. The story broke in the press within 48 hours. Headlines screamed about the terrified heiress and the mystery nurse, and suddenly Amara Bennett, who 2 months ago had been an anonymous night shift nurse walking home in the rain, couldn't leave her own apartment without a camera in her face. I have to go, she told Nathaniel, 3 days after the petition hit the news, her bags already half-packed on the bed. If I stay, I'm the reason you lose her. Victoria's not wrong about that part, even if she's wrong about everything else. My presence in this house is now Exhibit A, Amara. I watched a courtroom last year decide a mother's fitness based on her zip code, Nathaniel. Her hands were shaking as she folded a sweater she didn't even need to fold. I know exactly what a judge sees when they look at me, and it's not what Lily sees. It's not what you see. I can't be the reason you lose her, and if I lose you instead... His voice broke on it completely. No boardroom left in it at all. Amara, look at me. Running doesn't protect her. It just proves Victoria's entire argument, that the moment things get hard, the people Lily loves disappear. She has already lost her mother. I am not going to let her lose you too, not to protect my own image in some judge's eyes. Upstairs, unheard by either of them, a door creaked open. Small bare feet padded down the hallway, and for the first time since the accident, Lily Wren, silent for 6 months, mute through therapists and specialists, and an ocean of expensive silence, stood at the top of the stairs and, in a small, cracked, unpracticed voice, said the only sentence she had spoken since the night her mother died. Don't make her leave, please. Don't make her leave. The custody hearing was set for a Tuesday morning in a courthouse that felt entirely too small for the size of what was being decided inside it. Nathaniel's legal team had prepared him for months of proceedings, appeals, delays, designed to exhaust him into a settlement. What none of them had prepared for was Lily Wren, 6 years old, sitting quietly beside her father's chair with Amara's hand held tightly in her own, asking the judge, in a voice still small and unpracticed, from 6 months of silence, but steady, absolutely steady, if she could say something. Family court judges do not as a rule allow 6-year-olds to testify, but something about the request, about the sheer improbability of a child, everyone in that room had read about as selectively mute and trauma-locked asking to speak for herself, made Judge Alvarez pause, lean forward, and quietly say, "Go ahead, sweetheart. Take your time. Grandma Victoria says Miss Amara is dangerous," Lily said, working through each word carefully, like she was relearning the shape of her own voice. "But Miss Amara held my hand in the rain when nobody else could. She didn't make me talk. She didn't make me do anything. She just stayed." She looked over at Amara, and something in her small face steadied further. "My mommy is gone. I know she's not coming back. But Miss Amara made it so I wasn't scared of everything all the time anymore. If you make her go away, I think I'll go back to being scared of everything again. Please don't make her go away." There was not a dry eye in that courtroom, not even Victoria's, though she would never admit it. The petition was withdrawn within the hour. Victoria Ashford, staring at her granddaughter's first real words in 6 months, finally understood what none of her lawyers had managed to explain. That healing doesn't follow anyone's approved timeline, doesn't check credentials or bank accounts or skin color before it decides where to take root. It just finds the open hand in the rain when everyone else is too afraid to reach out. "I was trying to protect her," Victoria said quietly to Nathaniel outside the courthouse, her composure cracking for the first time in the entire ordeal. "I lost my daughter. I couldn't bear the thought of losing Lily too." "You didn't lose her," Nathaniel said. "None of us are going to lose her. Not anymore." 6 months later, the rain came again, but this time nobody was afraid of it. Lily Wren, 7 years old now, ran through the garden puddles in bright yellow boots, laughing loud enough that the sound carried through the whole house, a sound that still made Nathaniel's chest ache with gratitude every time he heard it. She had been speaking in full sentences for months. She still had hard days. The anniversary of the accident had been brutal for all 3 of them, but she had stopped flinching from hands a long time ago. She had 2 hands she reached for now without thinking twice, her father's and Amara's, who had moved into the house properly in the spring, not as staff, not as an employee, but as the woman Nathaniel had asked quietly one evening in that same garden to stay for good. "You know," Amara said, watching Lily chase the neighbor's dog through the wet grass, her hand comfortable and warm in Nathaniel's. "When I climbed over that fence 6 weeks in, I never once thought it would end here. You climbed over the fence to save my daughter's life," Nathaniel Seal said. "I think you get to be surprised by anything after that." "I was going to say," Amar continued, elbowing him gently, "I never thought I'd end up engaged to a man who once made a Saudi prince wait 11 minutes in his own lobby. That prince deserved it. I'm sure he did." She was laughing now, easy and unguarded, the laugh of someone who had finally put down a weight she'd carried alone for 3 years. "I love you, Nathaniel Wren. Ridiculous lobby power plays and all." "I love you too," he said, and meant it more completely than he had ever meant anything in his life. "Both of you, every single day." Lily ran back to them, soaked and grinning, and reached up for both their hands at once, one on each side, connecting them all the way she had that first terrifying night in the rain. Except now the touching wasn't terror, it was home.